I don't know about you, but I'm just so tired. I really am. So tired of all this. So, today we're talking Halo. What is it? Campaign Evolved, right? And I technically kind of recorded this, I guess, like several days after the game came out on my phone, on a mic, and then never got around to doing it. But, I just want to sit down. I just want to talk about it for a second because I'm just so freaking tired. It's like you guys had one job. You had the easiest quest given to you of all time in 343, the AAA industry, the AAA company, Halo Studios, whatever the fudge you want to call it, because we understand 343 screwed up Halo so much with 4, 5, and Infinite that they had to rebrand as Halo Studios that, you know, they just completely destroyed um, Combat Evolved. Like, how do you do this? Like, listen, I get new games. When you're making a new game, them screwing it up, here, there, and everywhere, like Dragon Quest, I'm sorry, Dragon Age, and things like that. Not Dragon Quest, but I was like, you're handed the blueprints, and all you have to do is copy the homework and put a new coat of paint on it, and they can't help themselves. They can't help themselves, and it just drives me nuts. I don't know about you, but it really does. It just drives me freaking insane to know that they couldn't even do that. So where did you start with this? Like, and they're not the first one to do it either. Like Square Enix did the same thing with Final Fantasy 7 Remake, and there are people out there who will gaslight themselves into believing that that is somehow a superior game to the OG FF7 game, when it is honestly just a bastardization. I mean, you got the director himself coming out talking about how they were trying to like say anybody who wanted to stream things and stuff because he didn't want to be given away and stuff because he changed parts of the game so dramatically that he knew it would turn off OG fans if they weren't tricked into buying the product, right? And it just when went around and did that, it just completely changed how all the things felt, the emotions that would be going on, and stuff like that in the game. And, I think the biggest, you know, thing to point at when it comes to FF7, because I could sit here and I could talk about this probably for hours, all the little things that they've changed, this, that, and the other, is probably at the end of the second, you know, part of it where you have the death of Aerith, right? Spoiler alert. And the tonal shift is so bad there that it's like she's dead. No, she's not dead. Wait, she is dead, but she's not dead. Giant boss fight with Genova. Everybody's involved. There's glitz. There's glamour. There's lights. There's cinematic. Right? They're going for that cinematic thing. This huge fight, but she's also dead. But then she's not dead. And then the Final Fantasy Advent Children of Aerith is there, and then Zack is there. Why the is Zack there? And anyway, so yeah, what was a scene that back in the day, you walked in there, Cloud does the thing, it looks like he's about to like strike her down or something, and then he gains, because the Genova and all this other stuff, and then Sephiroth comes down and just runs her through, leaves a piece of Genova behind. You've got that music, the tone, everything, and it just hits you like a truck. And you don't have time for any of that in the remake. And Final Fantasy CE, Campaign Evolved is like, it's that again, right? There are so many scenes and so many different things in this, remake of the game that they have like completely lost the tone that originally should have been there. And, it's hard to, there's so many different things, right? It's hard to just pick one thing and start with it. So start with sprinting. I've already heard it a thousand times, right? Sprinting doesn't belong in CE. It never did. The game was not designed for it. The changes to the levels don't help it either. And what's really funny about the fact that they've added sprinting as a modern mechanic that did not need to be there is the fact that there is a skull that removes it, right? There's actually 4 skulls in that game, by the way, that they were so self-aware that they are changing just the fundamental gameplay of CE, Combat Evolved to Campaign Evolved. There are 4 skulls in that game you can find and turn on just to revert it back to original, to make it feel like you're actually playing the original OG CE once again, which should have been the default, right? Sprinting should have been a skull. All the other additions and stuff that made it more Call of Duty-esque, right? Should have been behind of skull if they were going to be present in the game at all, but they couldn't help themselves, right? So they made those the default, and then if you wanted to play the game the way it should have been intended, right, you've got to find the skulls and turn them on. But there's just so many different things, tonal shifts and stuff, and the problem here, I guess, like one of the multitude of problems, right, that I have with these remakes, right, because FF7 remake, Halo campaign involved remake to a new player, they're good games. They really are. Underneath it's still the OG for the most part. To the uninitiated, you know, it's a good game. It looks good. It plays great. It feels fine. There are some hiccups here and there, right? Graphically and other stuff, like maybe your tank phases out of existence but still works. Who knows, right? But for the most part, for a modern game, it's good enough, right? For those newcomers, into the space. But that's the problem. These games weren't marketed to that. They were marketed to people like myself, right? And it's funny because I've seen other people also talk about, well, obviously this game just isn't for you. Why are you even bothering talking about it and stuff? And it's like, because it is. Like this game was marketed towards me and other people like me. This was a game made for me. They marketed it towards us, and then they fundamentally destroyed it, right? From little bits and pieces here and there. You've got, like, for instance, one of the Marines on the ship. Okay, just a little reference here, because 343 has no idea what they're doing. They've inherited a thing and they know nothing about it for the most part. Like, they've got the cliff notes, they've got the idea, but they don't know anything deeper into it. One of the Marines on the deck, right? Was a face scan of the original developer. Well, that Marine's now a woman now. Did they know that they were removing one of the original devs who were put into the game? No, they had no idea. They don't know any of that because they don't really care about it. I mean, hell, there was a guy, and I don't know if he was working on Halo or if he was moved to Marathon or what it was anymore, because I didn't keep track of the guy. But, I remember in an interview where he was talking about, like, he hates guns, yet he seems to be working on these military shooter games, and it's just like, I feel like your talents they're being wasted here. They should be on some other kind of game, to be totally honest at this point. Why are you working on a game about shooting people or aliens or whatever it is? That just doesn't seem like a good fit. And then you've got other things too, right? Like, who was it? Williams or whatever the hell her name is, the ODST chick, right? Those 3 missions they added to the game. See, their quest was simple: remake Halo CE with a new coat of paint. And then, if you do add on to it from there, you add on to it respectfully, right? That is something that 343 and modern gaming companies apparently just can't do. Now, we've got, like, for instance, who was it? Toys for Bob, right? They made Spyro Reignited trilogy, and they made it from the ground up. They had to. They used an emulator to play the original games to make notes and find everything and put it back in place where it was supposed to be, because they had to made it from scratch, and they did it respectfully. They added things like little conveniences and stuff where if you missed a gym, in the first world and one of those stages or something, you can go into the menu, go through the adventure guide or whatnot, click on it, and just teleport to it, so you don't have to, like, ride the balloonist 5 times to get back there, then go hunt the level front, jump through the portal. They made it easy. Quality of life. There we go. They added quality of life things, right? And then you've got, like, the team over that did Final Fantasy VII, the Evilise Chronicles. They did the same thing. They recreated that game from the ground up, right? And or maybe not from the ground up, but they recreated that game It was the original team. They made a lot of changes to where there was errors and translation stuff. They left certain ones intact because they were sort of well known, like the Spoonie Bard and stuff. You know, that one was left intact, even though it was I guess, a mistranslation back in the day. They just still left it there because, they understood the audience, right? While also adding quality of life and extra things to it. And they did it in a respectful manner to the original thing, which is something that 343 obviously can't do. So they've added Williams, or whatever the hell her name was, right? The ODST member who comes in with a chip on his shoulder, who absolutely can't stand Chief and all this other stuff and has to talk down to him. And then, after the third mission or whatnot, it's just like, oh, you're not so bad after all, because you've got to have that strong, independent woman come in and talk down to our main character, because it's not a Microsoft game unless you have that sort of thing, right? You got to demasculate the male lead in order to fit in this wannabe chief, wannabe female chief. And it's funny because, everybody looked at it and everybody knew. They looked at it, they know exactly why she exists, because she doesn't exist in the original game. And then you have the tourists, right? The bots, the people who want to, she was in your book. Great. Do you know what? The books are non-canon. Anyway, so yeah, the books are non-canon. Anything that happens in the books are not canon. What happens in the game are separate from the books, for starters. And then, of course, there are other things. Well, she talks that way because, ODST has don't like the Spartans and all this other stuff. And it's just like, no, that's not a real thing. See, what happens is in the book, right? John is jumped by a couple of ODST and he kind of kills them. Okay, a younger John, by the way. John is Master Chief for the uninitiated, 117, right? And he kills them. Okay, and now this book, Bungie didn't want released. The main reason for why they didn't want it released, which was said in an interview at one point, is they didn't want to give Chief a definitive background. So their workaround for all this was, books are non-canon, guys, right? So it still got released and stuff like that. But what happens in the book is they cover it up. Okay, people higher up and stuff, they know about it. They cover it up. And the only people who actually really know about it are those who covered it up in John. So no, the whole set of ODST don't hate the Spartans. That's not a real thing. That is something somebody has made up with their headcanon because of one thing in a book. And that's what they're using to justify her chip on her shoulder, when in reality we know the real reason. They just needed a strong, independent woman to talk down to our male lead. That's the whole point. That's the only reason it is. And people are running cover for it, trying to give it an explanation that doesn't exist. But yeah. And then you've got that. Right? You've got the fact that sprinting just fundamentally breaks the game. Okay? I'm sure I did talk about it. Anyway, it just breaks the game. You can run past most things, completely avoid it. The Flood can't even keep up with you. So when you get to that part of the game, the Flood is never going to catch up to you. You can literally run around a spire or something that's on the map and just turn around and take your time with them, even on Legendary, because what's funny is I saw a video of somebody just running through, which is something we already said at that point, right? You could just do that, and then people were making excuses for it. Oh, well, yeah, I mean, they do that on speed runs and stuff. Well, no, they couldn't run like that. I mean, sure, they had tricks and trades to bypass things in a speed running thing, but this is not a speed running thing. And when it comes to speed runs, I don't know if you guys have really noticed this or not. If you actually watch real speedrunners, they have this thing known as skill. Okay? Which is not something that a lot of us have in that department when it comes to speed running. Speed running takes a very particular set of skills and very intimate knowledge of various mechanics and stuff. And Sprint, it's not exactly one of those things, right? This is the Call of Dutyization, I guess, of Halo, where, one, like Halo, takes actual skill. The other is just Call of Duty, okay? But for the most part, you've got people going, it's like, I'd like to see you try it on Legendary. And it's like, yeah, we've done that already. It's already been done. People have already done it. They've run through it on Legendary. The Flood can't even keep up with you, and you just turn around and you just shoot them down. There's also the fact that the AI is just horrendous in this game, right? The amount of videos of the AI, the Flood doesn't react properly when shot. The Flood can't keep up with you because you can sprint. Elites are just shooting a wall, trying to shoot to you because apparently they don't know enough to step away from the wall and come around. Compared to the OG, wow, right? It's like no, the OG wins in this department definitely. Like the only thing combat or was campaign evolved wins on is the fact that it looks pretty for the most part. You've got the fact that cutscenes don't properly mesh for the most either. There was one of the stages, if I remember correctly, it has like two or three different exits to that stage, and in the OG, the cutscene that plays changes based on where you exited the stage at, right, and moved on to the next section. And this one's just a generic thing. It's one cutscene. Doesn't matter where you come from. It's always going to be one cutscene. There's other cutscenes like one point you get into a banshee and you can fly around, do stuff, and you fly out the shield or whatever. And in the OG, that's where the cutscene starts, right? It's you flying off. And in this one, it's you climbing into the banshee and then flying off. And it's like everything you just did before you actually did just didn't actually happen because, the cutscenes, I guess somebody's excuse for the cutscenes was it was outsourced, I guess, or part of the stuff was outsourced. And it's just like, well, then there should have been some communication there. Like, seriously, like, just send them the OG cutscenes, okay? And say, recreate those. That's it. That's all you had to do. And then you make the game on your end and then recreate it because again, you're copying someone else's homework to make this game. That's the easiest job you had. And you couldn't do it. And then of course, there's all the little things. It's like everybody half the Marines are female for some reason. Nobody knows why they're they're female, but apparently half the Marines are female. And then you have the whole bridge incident where, that one guy was just trying to shoot people and he's a competitive player, so he tries to shoot for the head. And you've got people who's like, well, no, yeah, I mean, that was like that in the original and blah blah this that and the other. And to be honest, I don't remember if it was like that in the original or not. What was funny about that entire interaction is apparently later while he was playing it, supposedly one of the devs had came into his stream later on and had mentioned that the female Marines hitboxes were smaller. And that was why if you shoot them in the chest, everybody will die on the bridge with no problem. But if you're aiming for headshots, only the males, for the most part, will die because their hitboxes are larger. And it's one of those things that's just like, guys, do you not hear what they just said? It's like female hitboxes are smaller. Why? Why is that? Half the Marines have been turned to females. All their hitboxes have made it harder for this terrible AI to shoot. It's like that for a reason, guys. It's not because their models are smaller. It's they want the female Marines to survive the engagement more. That was a deliberate thing. If they wanted them to have real parity, they would have given them similar hitboxes. Because let's face it, they're about similar in game anyway in looks and stuff. But that's a whole other thing, right? And it's just like, really? Really? Like, are we really doing this? And then it's all the little things. It's like you take a high jump in a warthog, the Marines are like, woohoo! And stuff like that. And now we've got silence, and I'm starting to believe the propaganda. Like, really? The propaganda? What the fuck you think this is? Super Earth? Are you a super... What is this? You a hell diver or something? Or a citizen of, you know... Then again, I don't think that if you hadn't believed, you probably would have went to an education camp at that point, or a correctional facility, whatever it was, right? They would have alerted the appropriate departments to make sure you believed the propaganda at that point. Um, but yeah, it's a complete bastardization of Halo, and there's so much more, and we haven't even talked about, like, say, the ending, right? Spoiler alerts. If you hadn't seen the ending, I'm actually debating on whether or not we just play it back to back at the end of this. I just include it, the OG ending and the new ending to the game at the end of this video, because this is going kind of long, right? It's already 20 minutes. I don't even know if I'm going to be really editing a whole lot or anything. But if you watch the new ending, Cortana, we didn't even talk about how Cortana looks, like what they did to our girl, right? Like Cortana has been, she kind of looks like a man now, right? People have done the comparisons, you know. But yeah, she actually seems almost happy that people died at the end of Halo. And in the original, that's not the same feel that you got. Like she almost feels great that it happened. And I get what they're doing with this, right? It feels like they're trying to rewrite Cortana because they decided Cortana became a bad guy, somewhere down the line, and decided to, rewrite the whole Forerunner connection to humanity and all this other stuff. And in order to justify that, they've got to portray her as being a bit, loopy, right? A little bit psychotic. It's like, well, look at this. Back in CE, she was happy everybody died. You could see it on her face. She sounds like. And in the original, it felt like, when they were delivering those lines, it honestly felt like that she was trying to justify to herself, just to justify to Chief that, it had to be done for the greater good kind of thing. And she was, not okay with the fact that it happened kind of deal, right? And it's just those subtle shifts in tone that are completely lost from the original to the new one. Anyway, let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I'll talk to you later. See ya.